So tonight we're going to kind of do three things. First off, we're going to, just in general, on the one hand, you all are adults, and so I'm not going to treat you like you are a third grade Latin class. So, yay. However, that also means that there will be some things and maybe some times where you feel like, wait a second, he's assuming I don't know anything. And that's true. I'm assuming you don't know anything. My ninth graders, we were outside reading Socrates this morning out by the river, and I played a really nasty trick on them. And I asked them, does anyone know what a subject is? To be fair, that's actually a question for you in 3 weeks. So you can like gear up mentally here for a 3-week away question. And one of them said, yeah, I know what a subject is. And I said, what's your subject? And he gave me a definition. I don't want to repeat it because I'm going to try to play this trick on you in 3 weeks. Kind of. Well, we'll see the nature of the trick. But anyway, so we want to assume, and I was saying this to the students, we want to assume that we don't know anything. Or rather, we don't know anything fully. We know things in part. We know things, sometimes we're kind of grasping at straws and we have an idea, for example, of what a verb is. But we don't maybe always have like a really good, deep knowledge where we can feel what a verb is in our gut. Like, yes, I know verbness. Sorry, I grew up in Texas. In Texas, you know things in your gut if you don't know that. So that's true. Okay, so anyway, so on the one hand, you're adults. We're not going to do it quite like I would do some of this stuff with young kids. But with that said, there are going to be parts of what we do tonight that I'm going to treat you just like human beings. And so one of those ways that I'm going to treat you is I want to make sure that printed off correctly. We're going to start with a recitation. And when we do this recitation, we're going to stand up to recite it. And for the first time through, that's going to result kind of in us standing for a long time. So if you have been on your feet all day, I apologize. If you've been on your butt all day, it's good to stand up. So let's stand up. And then we'll pray. And then we'll look at one verse from Romans 8. The students at Veritas are memorizing Romans 8 right now. Oops, pardon me. And so it's in that spirit that we will memorize some of Romans 8. But just like I say to the 11th graders, they don't have to memorize it in English because they're memorizing it in Greek. So, you know, I don't make them double up on that. Okay. All right. So, as we go through this recitation, I'm going to send out to you an audio file of it. Is anybody scared yet when you see these symbols on the board? You feel, okay, that's good. That's good to own your fear. Okay. So, right now, today, this is going to sound like 99.9% nonsense, probably. That's totally okay. If you'll trust me like I trust the monasteries, we'll be okay. I'll send you out an audio recording of this so you can hear it. I like to start my day with a physical workout and a mental workout. Sorry, this is where my old school iPod sits when I work out. And I start with this recitation. It's like 7 minutes. Today it's going to take us about half an hour. Okay, so here we go. So first off, there's the bold parts, and I'll read the bolded questions. And again, this is going to maybe sound like silliness to you, but if you'll just play along. I'll read it. What is the declension of hey hora? Okay, let me pause right there. These letters, they're not English. To quote one of my 10th graders, this would be so much easier if it was written in English. All right. So if you look at this first letter, does anyone recognize what this letter is? Eta, good. And it says A. So the nice thing about Greek letters is they all say their name. Okay? So this eta, that's a vowel. If we had time, I would ask you to define what a vowel is, but I don't have time for that. But you could also say what's a consonant and kind of define what a consonant is. Okay, but this is a vowel, and I'm not going to define what that means. And on the top of it, you have this little thing that looks like an apostrophe. Do you see that? So in Greek, that's called a rough breather. It makes the sound. It's a rough breather. The opposite of a rough breather goes the other way. So let's see if I can find a smooth breather. I don't have one right here. But anyway, it goes the other way.
So the smooth breather is different from the accents as well?
That's right. These are not accents. Accents are just emphasis marks. or emphasis marks. Rough breather, smooth breather, nothing. So any word that starts with a vowel is going to have a breather, either a sound or a not sound. It's just, that's right. It's just to let you know they didn't forget about their breather, basically. Okay? All right. So, hey, hora. And there is an accent. Let me zoom in. There is an accent on that weird letter. Again, it's all Greek to me. Okay, how many times are we going to make that joke? Okay, you ready for it? Okay. All right. So this letter, what's this thing? It kind of looks like a W. An omega. Yeah. So this omega has not only our rough breather, do you see that? But it also has an accent over it. We're going to talk a little bit about accents at the end of the day. The only thing we need to know right now is if you see this little mark, or this little mark, or this little mark, you won't see this today. Oops. Just emphasize that syllable. So it's not hora, it's hora. Can you hear the difference? Difference. Difference, not difference, not difference. Okay, so hey hora. So y'all say that. Hey hora. Hey hora. Good, excellent. Sorry, this letter right here that looks like a P. Rho, that's right. And this is honestly where sometimes Greek is tricky. That looks like it should make a P sound. It doesn't make a P sound. P makes a P sound. Or in mathematics we would say pi, right? Anyway, so and then this last one that looks like an A. Good, alpha, alpha. So it's the same sound. This is kind of tricky. But if you said this letter, if you know this letter, say that one. Beta. Listen to how you said that. Beta. There's your sound. So these letters, you could spell them out. And the really nice thing about Greek is eta always says A, alpha always says It's what's called phonetically pure. Whereas in English, though, I don't know about, and we could go through and we could say like weigh. No way would I weigh myself in front of you all, right? And AY makes the same sound as EIGH, makes the same sound as wave. You see that? So that can be really tricky. English is a very hard language. Do you know they don't have spelling bees in other countries and languages? True story. Because we're such a mess, the technical word is we're such a bastard language. Anyway, we come from all these different parents, okay? I promise I was just talking about language. It's okay. All right. So anyway, so that's what we've got is this hora. Hora. Okay? All right. And now we're going to say these different forms of hora. Let me zoom back out. All right. So I'm going to say them, and I'll give a little like wave to myself and a wave to you. So here we go. Hora. Hora. Horas. Hora. 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 Now notice here you have this little, it's an iota subscript is what it's called. Iota written underneath. It doesn't change the pronunciation though. Hora. All right. Horan. Hora. 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 Ooh, there's our other accent. The first time we've seen this little guy. His name is Circumflex. It literally means to bend around or to break around like genuflect or reflect. But it's a circumflex. Anyway. Horai. Horai. Ooh, grammar nerd quiz. We have two vowels that come together to make one sound. What do we call that? Diphthong. Good. Careful. It's not, I have a really embarrassing video online where I spell it diphthong, D-I-P. It's not. It's diphthong with a P-H. And I only harp on that because, of course, when you post something online with an error, everyone literally from around the world will be like, it's diphthong, idiot. And you're like, all right. So there is a diphthong, our first one. Alpha, iota come together to say I. So let's say it again. Horai. Horai. Horon. Ooh, careful, the accent shift. Horon. Horon. Good. Horais. Horais. Horas. Horas. Horai. Horai. Awesome. Next noun. Ooh, and new letters to go with it. All right, can anybody say this word right here? Hey. Hey, you sounded nice and energetic there. Okay, this letter. Phi, yeah, phi. So it's spelled, again, if you were to write it, it would be spelled phi. Iota, E. Okay? So, what's this letter? Okay, it says O, so fo. This is hard. That's the new. New. And I remember when I was in college learning this language, I used to be like, I'm so lame. I was like, that's a new letter. Whoa. Anyway, after new comes xi. That's how I always remember where xi came in the alphabet, because it's like, I need a new letter. How about a xi? Okay. All right. Anyway, the jokes get worse from here, everyone. I promise. Okay. And then the last letter, eta. There it is again. And notice it has the accent. So we're going to say, hey, phone. So repeat. Hey, phone. Hey, phone. Good. All right. And this is what we call first declension pure eta. You'll learn what that means next week or 3 weeks from now. Here we go. Phone. Phone. Phonace. Phone. Phonane. Phone. Phonai. Phonone. Phonice. Phonus. Oh, sorry. Phonus. Oh, yep. Phonai. One tricky thing is Latin never accents the last syllable. Greek, it happens a lot. So when I really break down, anyway, that'll happen. Okay. Quick comment on this. Do you notice where the accent is going on these diphthongs? There are 2 of them. It always goes on the second vowel. Any kind of superscript writing will always go on the second vowel. So for example, we'll see in a bit a verb, a me, and the smooth breather will go on the iota in the diphthong. Okay? So just something to highlight. All right. Next declension. What is the declension of hey? Oop, new letter. Yeah, delta, good. Omicron, good. There's that new letter. Xi, yeah, this is like, I don't know how many x's it took me to try to write this thing correct finally, but it's like this double loop and around. Xi, and it just says x. And our good buddy Oxa. Oxa. Doxa is the word, alpha is the letter. All right, so we would say, can anybody try to read it? Hey, doxa, good. Hey, doxa. And I find it's helpful for me at least, if I get my body into it somehow. So in the recordings or things like that, I'm literally punching the air with my hand to make sure I get the accent in the right place. Okay? So here we go. Ready? Doxa. Doxa. Doxase. Doxe. Doxon. Sorry. Doxa. Doxai. Doxone. Doxice. Doxus. Doxai. Awesome. Very common word. You probably sing doxology at the end of church. Doxa meaning, what are those? Logos means word. We're going to come to that in just a second. They're words of what? Doxa. What? Blessing? Praise. Yeah, good. Glory. God's glory. Doxology. Praise words. Glory words. All right. Here we go. New letters. Well, not letters if we took math to a certain level. Okay. How would we read this? Ha. That's right. This is an omicron, not an omega. Ha. Omicron. Good. There's our good old math letter. Yeah, good. P. Because it's spelled P iota. So it's not pi. I don't want to fight with math. People say pi. That's great. But this is P in Greek. Okay. Second letter. Rho. So pra. Ah. Good. Omicron. Phi. So pra. Fe. Ace, good, it's an eta. All right, one thing we haven't commented on yet is we've maybe noticed E versus A. Yeah, E versus A. Have we seen a non-final sigma yet? I don't think we have, right? I don't think so. Anyway, this is final sigma. This is something that shows up in some languages. We don't have it in English. But there are a number of languages that do, where whenever our sigma is written at the end of a word, this is its form. It's just called final sigma. Versus if it's written somewhere in the middle of the word, we'll see that later, it looks like that. It almost looks like a cursive S. So anyway, we're going to accent this word ha prophetes. Okay, here we go. What is the declension of ha prophetes? And then we would say first declension masculine. Here we go. Prophetes. Prophetu. Ooh, what do we have here with omicron and upsilon? New letter, by the way. A diphthong, good. Two vowels coming together to make one sound. Excellent. Prophetu. All right, prophete. Prophetane. Propheta. Propheti. Prophetone, there it is. Prophetis. Prophetus. Propheti. Awesome. Yeah, next 3 weeks. Rose teaches Latin for 3rd grade through 5th grade. So she has a benefit that Latin and Greek share many of the fundamental ideas. That's how our students are able in high school to like hit Greek so fast. So they hit Greek, at a pretty aggressive pace because they already have the liberal art of grammar increasingly under their belt. That's how they're able to do that. Yeah, we're gonna hit it fast. Not quite at like a seminary level, but we'll be pretty close.
That's a whole course
Over the year. That's right. So each like individual class, so to speak, would be like at a seminary level, it'd be about a week and a half. So we'll have like 3 weeks where we're doing like a week and a half. That's pretty normal, seminary level kind of thing. Okay. New letter. Ha. Lambda, good. Lambda, it's that alpha sound again. Lambda, good. And again, it doesn't matter. Like it's like saying Moses. Moses' name is Moshe. But nobody's going to be like, it's actually Moshe, not Moses. Actually, you know who will? 5th graders. They'll try to correct you. Okay, all right, so another new letter. Gamma, good. Good pronunciation, good. Gamma, so it'll go halagos. So here we go. Logos. Good, and here we go. Here's the declension. Again, 3 weeks from now. Logos. Lagu. Lago. Logon. Lage. Lagoi. Lagon. Lagos. Lagus. Lagoi. Awesome. We're almost done with this particular looking chart. Or actually one page of them. All right, here we go. What is the declension of ta-u? Can you see the top of that letter? And if not, you can look in your paper. What's on the top of that epsilon? No, circumflex is the one that bends. Circum. Good, we've got 2 things. We've got one, the first is a smooth breather, which tells us no, nothing added, that's right. It's like a little nothing added, just natural, good. And then the other one is this little accent. It's an acute little accent, but we'll talk about that at the end of tonight. Here we go. All right, so we would say this. Ta. Good, ergon, ta ergon. Okay, this I was trying to think of a good English derivative. I was going to say energy, but anyway, it means work. Anyway, maybe there's a derivative somewhere in my brain. It'll come out later. Okay, here we go. Ergon. Ergo. Ergo. Ergon. Ergon. One thing, this is not the word ergo, like therefore, like you hear sometimes in law school. That's a Latin word. Okay. Erga. Ergon. Ergois. Erga. Erga. Okay. Awesome.
So you wouldn't pronounce the epsilon next to the row as air, because you don't want to confuse it with the...
Yes, that's right. You don't confuse it with the eta. And honestly, I don't know what Socrates sounded like. I'm a big fan of like find a pronunciation system and just stick to it for like purity's sake if you can. It'll just help your spelling a whole lot is what I find. Versus if you're like, the hardest one for me is to jump back and forth between like alpha or so hearing alpha versus omicron, versus if that makes sense. So supper, that's a U, English, versus fox, socks, box, knocks, sir. Good. All right, the declension of ha. Ooh, good. This is a key. It says k. So, Arcone. Good. Arcone. Good. So, we're probably most used to that letter key. Where do you see that all the time? If you've ever seen, like, for example, this little symbol.
I was
But say that word. No, say how you would say Jesus, Christ. That's the right sound. But it's a Christos. Crease. Yeah. So we say Christ. Again, we'll talk about that later. Okay. So Arcone. Arkontos. Something really different just happened. Okay, here we go. So this is a third declension. We'll learn that's weeks and weeks down the line. You don't need to worry about it, but let's just hear ourselves say these things. Here we go. Arcone.
Arcone.
Arkontos.
Arkontos.
Arconti.
Arconti.
Arkonta.
Arkonta.
Arcone.
Arcone.
Arcontes.
Arcontes.
Careful on this one. Arcontone.
Arconto.
Yeah. Arcusi.
Arcusi.
Arkantos.
Arkantos.
Arkantes.
Arkantos.
Yeah. Yes. That's right. All things in their time. All things in their time. All right. What is the declension of ta? There's our non-final sigma. There it is. There's also another new letter right there. Mu. Yeah, mu. So Soma. Good. If you've ever read the book Brave New World, there's a drug they take called Soma. What does Soma do for them? It sedates them, but then they take it when they go to those orgy-porgy things. If you know the book. It makes their body feel good. It either puts them to rest and turns the body. Soma is the body. So they're taking a drug called body. What does it do? There you go. There you go. Cool. I didn't know that, but there is, if you, never mind. Okay, that's another story. All right, so Soma, Somatos. And here, notice, actually this is kind of cool. The first letter is that sigma non-final, and then we have a sigma final. So you can see both in that word. All right, so tasoma, Somatos. Here we go. Soma,
Soma.
Somatos,
Somatos.
Somati,
Somati.
Soma,
Soma.
Soma,
Soma.
Somata,
Somata.
Somatone,
Somata.
Somasi,
Somasi.
Somata,
Somata.
Somata. All right, you're through the hardest parts. It gets more fun after this, I think. All right, here we just got monosyllabic blurt sounds. Here we go. Hata. When I was in college, I remember thinking like the Hata, because this word means the. I studied Greek like from like 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. I worked security shifts in Chicago during college. And there's nothing like running Greek declensions and vocab while you're like afraid you're going to get shot in Chicago. It's awesome. It's the right way to study.
Like the article?
This is the definite article, the. So again, stupid mnemonic devices. I'm full of stupid things. That's what I've got for you. Okay, so ha-hey-ta. Again, you'll learn why in a bit, but first, they just make one little syllable sound. So here we go. Ha.
Ha.
Tu.
Tu.
To.
To.
Ton.
Ton.
Hoi.
Hoi.
There's that rough breather. Hoi. Hoi. Oh, sorry.
Even though it comes on the second, because it always comes on the second, before the beginning.
There aren't two sounds. Two vowels coming together. So this is a diphthong. That's right. Yeah, right. It's not I, right? It's hoi. One sound. Here we go. All right, so hoi. Tone. Tois.
Hoi.
Tus.
Tu.
Lots of diphthongs there, right? Okay. Here we go. Oops. Here we go. Hey.
Hey.
Taste.
Hey.
Tay.
Hey.
Tane.
Tane.
High.
High.
Tone.
Tone.
Tice.
Tice.
Tuss. Awesome. One more of those little short guys. Here we go. Ta.
Ta.
Tu.
Tu.
Toe.
To.
Ta.
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 Tone.
Tone.
Tois.
Toi.
Ta.
Ta.
Awesome. You feeling better already about your eyes? No. Oh, all right, fine. I get all psyched up. Okay, this is where, okay, so in Latin this word is ega. In Greek it's ago. Yeah. So anyway, so there are going to be moments where I switch languages. It's going to be hard. Okay, but this goes ego. So here we go. Ego.
Ego.
Not ego, that's a waffle. Ego is I in Greek. All right, and then su.
Su.
Okay, here we go. What is the declension of ego? Su. Here we go. Ego.
Ego.
Emu.
Emu.
Emoi.
Emoi.
Emeh.
Emeh.
Hemes.
Emeh.
Hemon.
Emon.
Hemin.
Emin.
Hemus. Awesome. And you see all those rough breathers there and all the smooth breathers there. By the way, typing this in English is really fun. It's good times. All right, here we go. Su.
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 Notice this diphthong makes the same sound. Oo. Okay. Soy.
Soy.
Se.
Se.
Humes.
May.
Humon.
Humon.
Humin.
Humin.
Humus.
Humus.
All right. Those are all substantives or articles. You don't have to worry about that yet because what we're going to talk about tonight is basically this little box right here. Okay, so we're going to come back to it. So if you want to, as we're kind of flipping through, kind of hold that like bottom of page 2. That's where we're going to come back to. Okay? All right, here we go. What are the principal parts of luo? I think we've seen all these letters, but we're going to see some new ones here below. As we go through, I think that's the first time we've seen that letter, isn't it? What is that thing? Yeah, good. Kappa. Good. Good catch. Good. So kappa, that's new. I think this is new as well. Theta. Good. So it says th. Okay, it's our sound. All right, so here we go. The principal parts of luo are luo, luso, elusa, leluca, lelumai, eluthane. Good. What is the conjugation of luo in the present active indicative? Here we go. Luo, lues, lue, luamen, luete, luusi. Yeah, emphasize that first one, okay? There's a problem here with sometimes with Greek instruction. So I'm emphasizing this because the accent will never fall on this syllable. It's always going to be luusi or bepusi or ginoskusi or something like that. It's always going to go before the usi, which is unaccented. And the last one was infinitive luane. Awesome.
Always? Never an accent?
There will never be an accent on that. I know. You had people say it that way, didn't you?
Well, I don't remember the usi is never accent.
Yeah. It can't be, but we'll talk about that later. All right. What is the conjugation of...
So it can be accent.
It cannot be.
It cannot.
It cannot be. Never, ever. What is the conjugation of luo in the present middle passive indicative? Here we go. Luamai. Lue. Luetai. Luamatha. Luestha. Luontai. Infinitive luestai. Yeah, that one's a fun one for your eyes to get used to, isn't it? All right. Our first irregular verb, rule breaker verb, is ami. So ami. Here we go. Ami. A. Esti. Esmen. Este. I see. Good. Stick with it. Let your eyes get used to it. Luo again. Here we go. Eluon. Elues. Elue. Eluamen. Eluete. Eluon. Awesome. Here we go again in the imperfect middle passive indicative. Eluamen. I'm sorry. There we go. Eluu. Eluata. Eluamatha. Eluesta. Eluanta. The conjugation of a me in the imperfect indicative. Amen. Ace. Ain. Amen. Eta. Ason. Some of these are really hard. It took a lot of re-recording, so I'll just tell you to really pay attention to the accent. All right, back to something short. Here we go. Luo is going to go, in the future active indicative, is going to go luso, luces, luce, lusamen, lucete, lususi. Infinitive lucane. Some of them are really fun, aren't they? All right. Again, luo in the future middle indicative. Here we go. Lusamai. Luce. Lucitai. Lusamatha. Lucesta. Lucentai. Infinitive lucestai. That is like a great Greek word. We're like, wow, there's a lot of symbols in there that are not in the English Latin alphabet. All right. Conjugation of a me in the future indicative. Esamai. Esse. Estai. Esamatha. Eseste. Esantai. And the conjugation of luo in the first aorist active indicative, that's going to sound like total nonsense. Totally fine. Here we go. Elusa. Elusas. Elusa. Elusamen. Elusata. Elusan. Infinitive lusai. You're almost there. The verbs always pick up the speed. They're not as painful. All right, this page is my favorite page of all the sounds. Here we go. Luo in the first aorist middle indicative. Elusamain. Eluso. Elusata. Elusamatha. Elusasta. Elusanta. Lusastai. It can be more luso. Lambano in the second aorist active indicative. Technically, the first time we've seen this, what's this letter? Beta. Good. It says b. Here we go. Elabon. Elabes. Elabeh. Elabamen. Elabita. Elabon. Infinitive labane. Good. Good accent. What is the conjugation of lambano in the second aorist middle indicative? Here we go. Elabamain. Elabu. Elabata. Elabamatha. Elabasta. Elabanta. And the infinitive is labestai. Labestai. Yeah, your theta is there. All right. Sorry. All right, and the perfect, these are like the favorite. Perfects in Greek double up their consonants, so they're always going to go la la or baba or papa or mama. They're really fun to say. All right, so here we go. We're going to see this in the perfect active indicative. Here we go. Leluka. Lelukas. Leluka. Lelukamen. Lelukata. Lelukasi. Infinitive lelukenai. Good, lelukenai. Good. Woohoo. All right, some more perfects. Here you go, perfect middle passive indicative of luo. Lelumai. Lelusai. Lelutai. Lelumatha. Lelusta. Leluntai. Lelustai. There's your infinitive. All right. Whew, bring it home. Here we go. Pluperfect active indicative. Again, you'll see this as you go through it. Here we go. Now we're adding an e to the front of the sounds we just made, if you want to kind of see how things are changing. Elelukein. Good. Elelukes. Eleluke. Elelukemen. Sorry, diphthong, epsilon iota. Have we seen that? Oh yeah, ame. Sorry, I had to think if we've seen that. A. All right. Elelukete. Elelukete. Sorry, short E. My fault. Let me say it again. Elelukete. Good. Elelukeson. Good. All right. Last two. Luo in the aorist passive indicative. Here we go. Eluthane. Eluthes. Eluthe. Eluthemen. Elutheta. Elutheson. Infinitive is luthani. Good. Conjugation of luo in the future passive indicative. Here we go. Luthesamai. Luthese. Luthesatai. Luthesamatha. Good. Luthesesta. Let's say it again. Luthesesta. Good job. Luthesontai. Good job. All right, take a seat. Woo! That's just a workout, isn't it? Oops. It changed my... There we go. That's what I wanted. All right. So, as I said, we're memorizing Romans 8 as a school, but for my Greek geeks, they get to memorize it in Greek. So we're going to look at Romans 8, verse 1 here. This little A is not a part of the text. So with that said, it's going to sound something like this. Uden ara nun katakrima tois en Christo Jesu. Absolutely.
Why do the alphas look different in Arcone?
Then this first one does look different. It's just the font on the internet. Yeah, I have it in another font, but it's even more distant from the one we're reading. So this is like the most kind of like it that I could find. Does anybody see anything or think you see anything or want to venture a guess on maybe something going on there? Anything at all? What? Oh. What? Yesu. It is Jesus. Yeah, Yesu. Yeah. So we've got a smooth breather. Iota, Yesu. And there's your little circumflex accent on the end. Yesu. Christo, Yesu. What do you think that means? All right. So one of the things that I'm going to try to do, and I do the same thing with my students as they get older, is I'm going to pick on some things that I don't think we often understand and that I don't understand, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to ask you a question. What does Christ mean? Anointed one. In what language does it mean anointed one? The Hebrew is not this word. The Hebrew word sounds like this. The Hebrew verb for to pour oil over someone's head is to mashach them. It's where we get the word Messiah. So in Hebrew, we mashach someone, and someone who is mashach is the Mashiach, where we get the word Messiah. But when this word gets translated into Greek, it becomes this word, which is the Greek participle meaning one who's been poured over, anointed one. So here's a question. How should we translate this? And let me just say this. I'll ask this question. Do the Bibles that you and I read usually, do we translate this word? For example, going from Mashiach to Christos? Or do we transliterate this word, bringing the letters across? Does that difference make sense to you? Okay, so if I transliterate a name, for example, it would be just saying Mashiach and bringing it over as Messiah. Messiah is not a translation of Mashiach. Does that make sense? It is just these letters written in a new alphabet. It is new littera, new letters. That's what trans means, across. So it is literally, there's that word littera again, according to the letters, it is just letters across, switching, in this case, Hebrew or Aramaic letters for Latin letters. So I just want to highlight this. When the Greeks, when the rabbis translate the Old Testament into Greek, it's a translation called the Septuagint, when they bring it over, they do not do this. They do not say, meh. They don't do that. They don't say Messiah or Messiah or something like that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. They're translating it. So the Bibles that you've read, do they translate this word or do they transliterate the word? What's the problem with that? You do not know what it means. So there's all kinds of confusion on this point because we might think something like, well, Christ is his last name, right? Jesus Christ, like John McCord or something like that. And it's not, it's his title.
I do like when they use the Christ, because then it's the anointed one.
Then it's the transliterated.
Well, but it's also like separating it out so you don't assume it's the right.
That's true. So it's maybe a move in the right direction, but why won't you just say Jesus the anointed one? Or Jesus the one set apart to be king?
They're concerned with losing some meaning and complexity to that term to Christ if you choose a particular translation.
Good.
I mean, often you would choose to transliterate because you don't want to lose some complexity in the original word.
Good.
So you just leave the word there because you don't know how to translate it.
Right. So, but what happens if you just leave the word there like this?
You just have a word in a language we don't understand.
That's right. And like, we're not talking about a burrito here. Do you know what a burrito, do you know what that word means? It means rolled. Okay, that's what it's a perfect passive participle also. No. No, little donkey? No, it doesn't mean that. It means rolled up. I'm pretty sure. Somebody is going to correct me. But anyway, I'm pretty sure it's a perfect passive participle meaning rolled. Okay, so if we just take this, to your point, Eli, I think it's a good question. If we're almost like, I just don't want to confuse anybody, so I'm just going to leave it like that. There's a rationale for that. But what I found in teaching people is this leaves us in a really rough spot. I should say, in a spot that is absent of knowledge. And even if I just said something like the anointed one, which is literally what it just means. It just means anointed. So even if you said like anointed Jesus, you didn't even say anointed as a king. You might at least go, oh, anointed for what? Or anointed to be what? Okay? And then we've got N. Anyone want to take a guess what N means? In. Yeah, sure enough. Anybody know what part of speech N is? Or in? It's a preposition. It tells us where or when or other kinds of adverbial information. Yeah. Where are these people? They are in Christo Jesu. Where are they? In Christ Jesus. In Jesus, the anointed one. Okay. So then we're going to come to the beginning. I wouldn't expect you to get anything else over here, but some really cool things going on in the Greek. So Greek does this really funky thing where oftentimes when it wants to use a logical conjunction, it comes second, but it'll always be translated and understood first. It's called a post-positive. Post meaning after, and positive, positioned after. Yeah, so it's always placed after, but it'll be translated before. And ara means something like therefore. It's drawing a logic class. What does therefore do? How does it function? Good. We've got somewhere up here a premise or even like a previous thesis, right? This is what I'm arguing. And one thing that's really cool is this thesis Paul's arguing on is actually, he jumped all the way up to chapter 5, verse 16 to 17, if I recall. He jumped way up in his argument. One of the ways you know that's what he did is he uses this word katakrima twice right here. And then basically the rest of 5 through 7 are kind of a rumination on this idea. Okay? So therefore, because of what I've just said above, and this is hard to translate, this is what's called emphasis position. We're going to talk about this when we get into nouns. In Greek, you don't have to follow the same word order you do in English. It's more like poetry for us, or how Yoda speaks. None there are. And Yoda, when he says none there are, he's emphasizing none. Does that kind of make sense? Or if you've read poetry, we can be a little more flexible with word order. So Paul here is emphasizing no one, none, not any, with like strong emphasis. And so none now. What is there none now of? There is none now penalty. So if you've ever, I was reading the trial of Socrates today with the 9th graders, and at the beginning of the trial, it's called Apology is the name of the dialogue, and at the beginning, Socrates makes his defense why he shouldn't be found guilty. The Athenians go and they vote and they find him guilty. And what he says then is, what should you give me as a katakrima? What should my penalty be now that I've been found guilty? And so what Paul's saying is here, so based on what I've just said, ara, now there's no penalty. No penalty. When you're convicted of a crime, you have two kind of stages. Again, a conviction and a consequence. Said it that way. Paul here, his emphasis on there's no penalty. That's what this word means. Okay, and there's no penalty for somebody. This tois here, we actually said it a moment ago, but we said a lot of things a moment ago. This would just be to them, to those.
So is the baptism in this part?
There's not, but hold off, that's 3 weeks from now. I know. Rose she wants it now. Okay, and so no now penalty. Again, we wouldn't translate it that way, but that's the emphasis. I would bold it if it were me. And so now there's no penalty for those in Christ Jesus. Okay? So, you do not have to do this, but again, I'm going to be memorizing this in Greek. I encourage you to do it. To write the words on your heart in Greek. It's worth it, I find. So if you would you stand with me and we're going to recite this brief little sentence. This is a very short Greek sentence. 3 times. And we'll kind of build on it. Again, if you want to check out chapter 5, that's what this ara is there for. That was always the bad joke. What's the therefore there for? All right, here we go. Uden ara nun kata krima tois en Christo Jesu. Here we go. Uden ara nun kata krima tois en Christo Jesu. Good, again. Slower. It's just once you get those triple accents like that, I find it speeds me up. Sorry, so here we go. Uden ara nun kata krima tois en Christo Jesu. One more, here we go. Uden ara nun kata krima tois en Christo Jesu. And just for fun, we'll do it one more. Here we go. Uden ara nun kata krima tois en Christo Jesu. Awesome, take a seat. So therefore there is no penalty for those who are in Jesus Christ. All right. You maybe already feel like we should have said this prayer. We're going to say it now. That'll be our warm-up each week. We'll say this recitation. Then we'll add a little bit of Romans. Why are you giggling? Don't you feel warmed up? Does your tongue not feel warmed up? Come on. All right. And then I'm just going to ask us to pray. I love this prayer. It's from Thomas Aquinas. Probably one of the most brilliant human beings to ever live and draw breath on this planet. And I love this prayer, especially with adults, because Thomas is going to say some really awesome things, like, pour out your brilliance on my dense intellect. Dissipate the darkness which covers me, that of sin and of ignorance. And so what he recognizes, and that I've always been convicted about, Homer won't start one of his great books without invoking the Spirit, the muse, to help him. And so I just want to suggest that we should not study without invoking the Spirit, who is called the Paidagogos, the teacher, to come and help us. We should not do that, I would suggest. Unless we think we're more intelligent than Thomas Aquinas. So you should not be in this room currently at all. All right, so let's pray. Come, Holy Spirit, divine creator, true source of light and fountain of wisdom, pour forth your brilliance upon my dense intellect. Dissipate the darkness which covers me, that of sin and of ignorance. Grant me a penetrating mind to understand, a retentive memory, method and ease in learning, the lucidity to comprehend, and abundant grace in expressing myself. Guide the beginning of my work, direct its progress, and bring it to successful completion. This I ask through Jesus Christ, true God and true man, living and reigning with you and the Father, forever and ever. Amen. All right. If you have a notebook, you can turn to page 1 if you'd like, or page 2, depending on what you've copied so far. We tonight are just going to talk about one idea for most of our instructional time. And that idea is verbs. Verbs. So who can tell me what is a verb? What does that mean, that word? It's an action word. Good. Can you give me an example? Run. Could you use that in a sentence? Because, for example, I went for a run. Is that a verb?
Yes.
No. I run. Okay, good. So a verb is an action word. And we have to be aware sometimes that in English, for example, that could be multiple things. I hit a home run, or he scores a run. I go for a run. And that run was different than the previous run. I have a run in my stockings. That's another run. Is that frequent? No, okay. In the 90s, that's right. My mom rocked some stockings and some shoulder pads in the 90s. I remember it. I remember it. All right. Good. So it can show action. Is there anything else do we know about a verb? Anything at all? What's that? Okay. Okay, so this would be something you do. By the way, the word action means do. So when a director snaps the thing and says action, that comes from a Latin word that just means do. Do your thing, right? Okay, so we could act, I run, or we could just be. For example, the name of God is a state of being verb. I am. And again, we could put something after that like I am a boy, or I am kind. Right? But that's not something I'm doing, that's just what I am. Does that make sense? Okay? And maybe that gives us another thing that we might need to know about a verb. What else is true about verbs? For example, I put, what'd you say? They do? Couldn't I just say run? What does that mean? What is? An implied subject? What does that mean? What's an imperative? You is an imperative?
No, run.
Run is an imperative. I thought we said run's a verb.
It is. It's a name.
Run is a verb. What? Say that again.
That's okay.
What?
So the only, because I have this conversation, I'm like, hey, this is the only time you can have just a verb without like a written subject is it is.
Okay.
That's wrong.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
In English.
Right?
I don't know. Are we talking about English, Rose?
Yeah.
Okay, so this you said is this a verb?
It's a verb.
It is.
If you're making it a complete sentence, it's got to be a verb and it's got to be a
Oh wait, so you just told us something else about verbs.
well, it's supposed to have a subject, but that one is implied.
This is supposed to have a subject?
Any verb is supposed to have a subject.
So does it have a subject?
Yes, it's an implied use.
Well then why do you say it's supposed to have a subject? Why don't you say it does have a subject?
It's implied and not written.
So, but it does it have a subject?
Yes,
Where is it?
not written, it's implied.
What do you mean implied? Is it hidden in here somewhere?
It's not. It's not.
Could I hide this subject in run also? Why not?
Because we have to have subject words.
Why is that?
I don't know.
It's just how it works in English? Okay, all right. So good. Thank you for playing with me. Okay, so we've got in English, and again, this is really important. Okay? One of the great things about traveling is it helps you see your home better. Right? You go away and you realize you have to pay to use a porta-john in England. Right? And you're like, well, that's lousy. Thanks be to God to rest stops in America. Okay, so you go away to other languages and they teach us about our own. And in English, there's something really funny about our verbs, which is not only that they could look like other things. For example, not to confuse us, but we could say, I go for a run. And this run looks the same as this run, right? But it's different. It's not the action, it's a thing. Or again, you got to run in your stockings. And this run looks like this run and this run, but it's different from both of them. And so in English, it's really, really important that we look at the words that are around a particular form, like R-U-N. Does that make sense? Okay? So context is really, really, really important. I was always taught that context is king. Context is king. What is around it tells us what is going on. Okay? So for example, if I changed this, so we have I here, but let's change that. And let's instead, you said you was the subject of this, but I thought I had to write that to say you run. How is this different from that?
One of them is second person singular, and the other one is second active imperative.
I don't know what any of that means. Good, thank you.
Well, because that second person.
Which one?
The you run is me talking about, it's a statement. It's like, it's
Or
making a
description.
statement of fact.
This one's fact. You run.
Well, it could be a
You run.
Oh!
Be an exclamation point at the end.
It could also be run.
Is that different from that?
Yes.
And this is different from this? Or is this the same?
Same.
How can these be the same when this is different from this? Clearly, that one says you, comma, and it doesn't say you, comma. Great, that'll work. Okay, so we're going to come back to English in a second. We're going to look at a language that helps us maybe a little more than this. So in English, again, these forms look the same, but if you look at your chart, go to the bottom of that second page for just a second. No pun intended. All right, at the very bottom right corner, the question is, what is the conjugation of luo? By the way, this verb just means I destroy or I loosen. This is the verb Jesus says, whatever you loose on earth will be loosed, whatever you bind will be bound. That's where that verb shows up, for example. But anyway, so we've got these forms of our verb. Luo, lues, lue, luomen, luete, lucy. Okay. So, if I were to take an English verb, the closest an English verb ever gets to this is the verb I am. So I'm going to draw a similar kind of setup. And let's see if you can help me fill it in with English. This is an easier one. Okay, here we go. I am. You are. Good. He is. We, y'all, they. Okay. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but how can am, are, and is all be in the same verb thing? Why does I take am, but you take are, and he takes is? Have you ever thought about that? And see, this is what's funny for us as English speakers is every other language in the world, this is always happening. Except for, the difference is, this is as close as we get with how many different forms here of the verb? 3, am, are, and is. Does that make sense? Because then these ones are, and are. You see that? But over here, look at the Greek. Luo, lues, lue, luomen, luete, lucy. How many forms? 6 forms. Every subject has a different form. So it would be like if we did this in English. What if we said, for example, instead of run, if we just acted like it was another language? For example, if we said something like this, runny, and run you, and run he. Does that, you see that? So every word, every verb in Greek has this encoded into it that says, if you look right here, you can tell what the subject is. Because what stays the same? Can you see? What stays the same versus what changes? And what do you mean by the verb? 'Cause the stem, what do you mean by stem? Ah, what does stem mean then?
The main part of the word.
The main part of the word. Good, that'll work. It's like a stem, right? It's the thing the leaf grows out of, okay? So you can think of the stem this way. We've got this lu, and then we have some kind of ending. So here, what's our ending on lu? O. What's our ending on lu? Ace. What's our ending on lu? What's our ending on lu? Amen. What's our ending on lu? What's our ending on lu? Usi. Good. All right. So what we've got here is, what do you think lu would tell us versus the ending might tell us? Okay, the verb, like the action, the kind of idea. For example, here we had a whole bunch of run examples. So lu means I destroy. It's kind of funny that you use lu for all the examples. It's a super safe, stable verb, which is why you use it. Some verbs get a little wacky, kind of like this. Okay, so If luo, pardon me, is I destroy, what would be lues? You destroy. And that ace is telling me
Is it always EIS or is it like?
epsilon iota sigma? It is. Yes, it is. And lue would be he or she or it. There are some languages that actually have gendered verbs. This is not one of them. Now I want to ask another question here. In English, why did you say destroys? Why didn't you say destroy? Why did you add an S there?
No idea.
Good. That's the right answer. Do you have an idea?
That's how we do it.
That's how we do it. We don't even know, we just know how we do it, right? So we just know.
I was sitting here thinking that I was teaching first graders how to make plural a couple of days ago, and I had no idea.
Good.
Why making plurals is fun.
Good. Who at some point thought, is that a plural? Did anybody think that? It's very common. You don't have to be, yeah, okay. But the thing is, he isn't plural, is he? He is singular. Stink.
We put an S at the end, so that's a plural.
That's right. So we think things like that, right?
Well, is it still called conjugating verbs the way you do it? That's how we conjugate verbs.
Yeah, but we almost don't. The only way we conjugate the verb is blank, blank, blank S, blank, blank, blank.
Yeah.
Right? But nobody would ever, like, did anybody ever get taught that way? To take an English verb, you say, I, walk, you walk, he walks, we walk, y'all walk, they walk. Were you ever taught that way? No. What did you say?
We don't teach y'all in the rest of the country, but text does, right?
What did you say, Rick, for second person plural? What would be the danger of only using you instead of y'all? That's right. So if you're reading the New Testament, super confusing. You know what's been shocking to me in reading through Romans? How often Paul uses the second person singular. I expected him to use the plural. It's so weird how many times he uses second person singular. The Romans.
But
I know. He's clearly individualizing it, not corporatizing it in many places. I assumed it would be plural. It's not, even though we call it the letter to the Romans. We really should call it the letter to the individual Roman or something like that. Okay. All right. I digress. All right. So this would be I destroy, you destroy, he, she, or it destroys, we destroy. Ooh, with an S or no S? We destroy? Destroy. Okay. Luete, y'all.
Destroy.
Good. Or Rick, what do you want me to say? You and? Ewan's guys, awesome. And Lucy, they.
Is that really where we get, it sounds like a, almost Lucy, I mean, it sounds
To like loose?
Yeah.
I wonder, I don't know. Loosey-goosey? I don't know. All right. So I want to talk about this chart just a little bit and look at it and just kind of see what we notice. Because we're adults, we're going to kind of ask this question. Can anybody describe for me, tell me, what is the difference between this row, and this row, or this column and this column?
Singular on the left, plural on the right.
Okay, so these are singular. What does that mean?
Let's do a single entity.
And single means
One soul.
good. Does it have to be a soul?
Specifically not.
Okay. This reminds me of a discussion we were talking about today with Socrates. Is I asked the students, what do you study in biology? And they said, life. I said, okay, so what's life? They said, well, there are 8 characteristics of life. I said, I didn't ask what the characteristics are of life. I asked you what life is. I'm like, I don't know. Like, good. You're wiser then. Okay, so singular just means one. Rick, that's a challenge to you too. I want you to tell me what life is. But not now. We don't have time for that now. Okay, so this is singular. This is plural, meaning more than one or two or more.
Either way you want to say it.
Is that okay either way? So if it's 1.5, is that plural? Well, let's think about it in cooking. If you use 1.5, are you using 1.5 chocolate chips?
2 or more. 1.5 pounds.
You made it plural, didn't you?
Yeah.
So what's the correct definition?
More than 1.
Greater than 1 is the definition. Isn't that funny? Isn't that awesome? I love that we don't know anything. I love it. it's so fun to realize you know nothing. Okay, so plural comes from the Latin word plus pluris, meaning more. Literally, it means more. So when you say 1 plus 1, you're saying 1 more than 1. That's what plus means. Plural comes from it. They don't look like they do, but they do. No, you have to trust me or not. Okay, so this is singular. This is for one. I, you, not y'all. I, not we. You, not y'all. He, not they. Now the question is, what's the difference between this row, and this row? Good. What does that mean? Right, so like what? We talked about we still don't know it. That's okay.
The speaker.
It's something about a speaker. Good, like a boombox, right?
The author, the talker, the narrator.
Okay, so if we were to talk about narrator, that comes from the Latin narro, meaning I tell. So we have a teller, not a bank teller. That's different. A teller and what else? So for example, I destroy. Who's the talker? But what else is I? Versus you destroy, versus he destroys. What has changed? An audience and not audience. Okay, what do you mean?
So, presumably if it's narrator, someone who's narrating to, the audience, the person is there.
Okay, hold on. He is defining something.
So the person or persons that he is addressing,
You assume it's a he.
I'm saying,
Okay, that's fine.
natural for me, he or she,
Thank you.
exclusively used by men who started out saying he, and then remember there was other people.
That's right. Good job.
So they, it's just confusing now, right, so I don't want to use that, so.
It's the relationship
So
between
it's,
the
let's say
narrator
that
and the
there's a
audience.
speaker and then the people that they're talking to.
Okay.
If he was speaking about them, you say you, either singular or plural. But if he's talking about something that was people in the audience, people not here, but I don't know, television, something like that.
Excellent. I love it.
Then he would say he. He's talking about one of them. Or if he's talking about many of them, he would say they.
Okay. So the third person you just said is about somebody not present. Is that what I heard you say?
That's what I thought.
Okay. Does that seem right?
Okay. I don't know.
Would it be weird, kind of, if I was like, so he, like I was kind of almost like I'm treating him like he's not in the room, right? Now I could say like, now Eli, you were just saying blah, blah, blah. Rose, you were saying, so I could like name you, but it would be kind of weird if I was like, what did she say? I mean, you could do that, right? But this, good. Third person is we have a speaker, perhaps, and the speaker is talking about, this is about what?
What they're doing. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking about something else. So in Latin, the first person is the speaker, the second person is the person speaking to, and the third person is the person speaking about. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm asking. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because, for example, if I said something like, I love Leslie. Leslie's not here, that's my wife. I'm talking about her now, right? Is that what we're talking about?
You're talking about yourself.
No, but she's not the subject of that statement. She's the direct object.
And what's a subject?
The subject is the person performing an action.
There's our second person. There's our second character in the story. We have two characters. We have the talker and the doer, if we can put it that way, right? We have the narrator and the actor. Okay, so think about it that way. We have a talker and a doer. And if I say I destroy or I teach or I see, who's the talker? And who's the doer? So how could we define this first person? Versus, watch, you destroy, you see, you teach. Okay, but let's get that better. I know.
Talker is the doer.
Which one?
First person.
Okay, the first person, the speaker, is the doer. By the way, we do not teach this to third graders, just so you know. It's very abstract, isn't it? Okay, so speaker is the doer. Does that kind of make sense? I do something, or we do something, because we're speaking and doing it. It's our perspective. Okay, second person. You teach, you listen, you see. Speaker talks to the doer. I'm talking, but you're acting. Does that kind of make sense? This is very rare, by the way. The only book I know that's written in second person is the Lorax. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows and nothing ever sings excepting old crows is the street of the lifted Lorax. And if you go there...
But even the Bible, even the Bible, Jesus talks to people. It's all just being spoken, right? So I'm thinking about trying to explain this to Socrates. He says, I am the bread of life, first person. And he says, you are sitting on a hill, second person. And then he says, but it's all in there. Like, you just have nothing else. So it's like, it just depends on if it's in quotes or if it's what.
What do you mean in quotes?
Well, you can say, I am the bread of life, and it also in quotes. So it doesn't have to be in quotes. But there is a lot that's second person. It has to be...
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. The second persons occur with Jesus talking to someone.
Right. And it happens in books.
Yeah. Yes. But not like the narrator telling the story usually that way.
Old time, you mean? Like
Yes.
Well, it
Yes.
also feels like there's narrative and there's epistle. There's letters which are written to a particular
Yes.
audience, and
Yes.
narrative is almost never second.
Yes. It's almost always first person or third person, right? I, whatever, such and such. You, or pardon me, he did such and such. Okay, so the speaker talks to the doer in the second person. Third person is what?
Talking about the doer.
Good, and usually that means what about the doer?
It's not present.
Good, the doer is not present. There are exceptions, but that's generally the case, is you're talking about
Or don't
someone.
they teach that very early on in grade?
It's just hard. Don't you feel like that's hard?
I'll say that, like, I've taken multiple Greek classes, we have never talked this specifically about what verbs are.
Right.
How they function. It's like the abstract background of what's going on in our language that
Yes.
we don't actually invest in.
Yes.
We just consume it.
That's right.
So it's like super valuable, but it is like, I'm thinking about trying to be in
Teach
first
it for
grade.
in first grade.
Yeah, my 6-year-old. That's what I'm always thinking about now is like how you take something like this and translate it into,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Well,
language
I
that
wouldn't
isn't
be so
translated
quick to
across
assume
it.
it's not useful to teach it. Maybe not first grade, but
I don't,
just explore it in third or fourth.
yeah, I feel like I'll just say, so I have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I feel like when I interact with young kids, so I'll just say specifically my 4-year-old and my 2-year-old, I think the bigger thing is I'm modeling correct grammar myself. This is the art of grammar. This is what grammar is. It's the ability to take ideas and put them into word symbols. That is the art of grammar. And so I feel like oftentimes with the youngest of children, man, I'm trying to model correct speech and correct their most egregious errors. I think. Yeah, I don't really want to go down that route. Sorry.
Well, I just came full circle in my mind because
Yes.
they said, well, yeah, third grade, they start
Yeah.
learning Latin.
Yeah.
So they kind of start to,
A little bit. Yeah, they do. But we just don't dig in quite the same. We would dig in singular versus plural. I would usually make that distinction to them. Right. Right. That's
I
right.
guess it's also like you have to have, like I'm thinking about discussing this with first graders, but it's like they're still actually learning how to even speak the language normally. It's like I feel like we can explore this at a level of abstraction because we have so much foundation in like speaking well and writing
Right.
well, and then we can explore the actual
Yes.
meaning of
Yes. And I didn't ask this, but can I just say, what languages have y'all taken at some point in the past? And I say take, like Americans take languages, they don't learn languages. Spanish, German, Spanish and Latin, awesome. English. You never took any foreign language? All right, that counts. It's there, right? Versus a first grader, to Eli's point. Spanish and Latin, and then Greek. What else, Eli? Spanish?
Spanish,
Okay,
right,
yeah.
like
Yeah, and again, like I learned Spanish conversationally growing up in Texas. I never knew why I was saying, like I didn't know why it was right. I just knew it was right. Like English, you know, you're like, I don't know, this is what it is. I couldn't give you a rule of like hablo is correct because hablo, I speak, hablas, you speak, habla, he or she or it speaks, hablamos, we speak. I'm like emphasizing it so you can, you know, habláis, y'all speak, or vosotros habláis, and hablan. Okay, the ending is more similar to Latin, but Latin's more similar to Spanish. Anyway, okay, so does that kind of make sense so far? We're familiar with that idea? Okay, the other form that we want to look at, and then we're going to end with a couple minutes on accenting, which will feel like you're getting hit with a stick. That's okay, is the infinitive luane. Now, the infinitive, and you'll see this again at that chart on the bottom of page, is it 2? Yeah, the infinitive. I just want to look at the word infinitive for a second. Infinitive. Infinitive. Anybody know what a finis is? A finitive? An end. So for example, in math, we have this cool little symbol, right? And that means what? Infinity, which means without ending, unending. An infinitive means ooh, what did you say? There's no ending. But wait a second, there is an ending. Isn't there? Because it has this stem, right? Oops, sorry. So we do have, this is kind of funny, there is an ending, but it's not this kind of ending. It's not a personal, first, second, third, or numerical singular plural ending. It is a not joined up with a person and number ending. It doesn't have a person ending. And so in English, we'll usually, but not always, translate it how? To blank, right? So in this case, to destroy. But not always. For example, we might say, listen to this example. I am able to destroy. But let's say we don't say I am able. What's the other way we could say I am able? I can. I can to destroy? What do we say? I can. Where'd the to go? It's implied. Where'd the to go? Yeah, you make them say, I am able to go. Right. These are the kind of things you do. Why does it go away? I don't know. It's probably something like can't take to after it. Like you can't say, I listen the music. You have to say, I listen to the music. You can't have listen take a direct object without the essential adverb to on it. Why? That's the language you speak. And you just know it because you grew up in it. But you don't know it because you grew up in it. There's this like crazy paradox, right? Where you will always be a native speaker, but because you're a native speaker, you'll always be blind to things that are present. Right? It's your health. You don't know you've got it until it's gone. And then you're like, oh, dang. I didn't know my knees felt so good every day.
But it also seems like necessary to our ability to function in the language. So
Yes.
we're not constantly examining it.
Yes.
Our capacity to examine it is important, but it's like we're always examining it. Once we're examining it, we're no longer like swimming in the water.
Yes.
We're like fish out of water
Yes.
momentarily.
We're not flowing. We're not fluent.
Sure.
Fluo, I flow.
Yeah.
Okay? So for us, when we learn Greek, this is why when we learn Latin and Greek, the goal is not to just become this fluent speaker. The goal is to try to get at the wisdom of dead people. And the dead people, to be blunt, aren't talking at us. They've written for us. That's how we have it. They sung like Homer, blind poet. And we've got him not because he was literate. He was not. But because people thought it was so beautiful and they committed it to memory and eventually they committed it to text. And that's how we've got it. Okay? So your homework for the next 3 weeks, let me just show you kind of how the book is broken up. If you would, open your actual book. For the A-types, they're like, thank God he's opening the book. This is great. All right, page 7. This is how the chapters work. On page 7, kind of towards the top there, you see a list of, do you see that list of 12 words? akuo, blepo, ginosko, grapho, didusco, thelo, kai, lego, luo, hati, uk, pistuo. You see those words? All right. So those are your vocabulary words for this chapter. So at the end of 3 weeks, you do have 12 words you have to have down. No, just the actual like akuo, I hear.
The infinitive. That's the infinitive, right?
Ooh. It's that form, yes.
Different than Spanish.
It is different than Spanish, but how did you know Spanish starts with the infinitive?
Because, remember
There you go. So different dictionaries list different verbal forms first. Do you know what English dictionaries list first?
that. Third person.
I'm being like run.
Isn't it run, ran, has run? I don't know.
About 10.
Why do I not know? I don't look at English dictionaries a whole lot for verbs. Just being honest. All right, so those are the forms you've got to know.
This is like Latin.
Sure, it lists that first person singular first. That's right.
Some of the.
Yeah, calm down, Rose. Yeah, simmer down now. All right, so your homework, you'll kind of see then, let me pause there, I'll come back to this vocab. Go ahead and flip to page 10, and you'll see the exercises. The reason why I love this book is literally from the get-go, they start throwing you into actual Bible sentences. Now they've given you, so first of all, you have practice and review. You see that on page 10? And these are 10 like Jack and Jill went up a hill kinds of sentences. Okay? They may not feel like it right now, but these are like, let's look. Ginoskamen, now we don't know vocab, so it's going to be hard, right? But ginoskamen, so can anybody translate ginoskamen? And you might have to flip back and forth to the vocab. We know, good. So we've got ginosko, but we've got ginoskamen. We know. Then we've got hati, which is like one of my favorite words. Hati. We know that, or because. We don't know if it's a grounds clause or an object clause. So we know because, or we know that. Pistuite. You know, flip back and find it. It means pistachio, to crack a nut. That's exactly right. We know that y'all crack nuts. That's right. No. We know that you believe. Good. Good. Is it you all believe or you believe? It's plural. Good. Ete.
I need to look back and figuring that out. Just by, no, it took me like, because we talked about the words earlier tonight.
No, I'm saying the vocab on that page.
Like, you have to look at the stem and then look at the ending and then figure out what the subject is based on the stem and the ending. It's excruciating.
Yeah.
So hard.
It is. Except for when the word's kai, and kai means and. Good. There we go. So there's nothing to worry about with and, it's just and. All right. Kai, and then thelete. Rose, you may not answer this. Thelete. What's thelete come from? No. Thelo. I wish, or I will, or I desire. So now we've got thelete. Good. So again, let's go back. We know that y'all believe and y'all want diduscain.
That's confusing. You had to have read a little bit to know what that form is.
Yeah, but what form of teach? Is it diduscain? It's the infinitive. So we know that y'all believe and want to teach.
It's hard to put the, like, I could, like, look at the word and try to elevate the word, but I couldn't figure out, like, they're always, like, is it really straightforward? Is it more
Right now, it's very straightforward.
Okay, so they're going to put it in, like, the order.
That's right. They're going to kind of help you out right now. Okay. So that's kind of what the sentences look like. So let me give you 2 notes real quick on this. And actually, I'm going to save the accenting notes for next time. They are going to throw in 2 nouns just to kind of give you a little bit of spice of life. And if you have any relationship to Philadelphia, you'll realize the irony. So adelphos means brother. I should have asked that, sorry. Adelphe would be the female form, the feminine form, sister. So they're going to give you just a couple nouns as subjects. We'll always be subjects. Okay? Never, ever enter anything besides the doer. And that's a fine definition for us right now. Okay? Those are the subjects. So for example, let's look at sentence 2 in practice and review. I'm going to read it, and again, you can flip back and forth. By the way, we're learning right now. It's really important to know what? Your vocabulary. That's really important, okay? Otherwise, again, you have to flip back and forth. And if you get to like 6 chapters in and you're flipping between 6 chapters, it'll feel real, it'll be hard, okay?
Alphabet's pretty important too, by the way.
Alphabet is...
No, it doesn't have what we were talking about.
That is a part of the book. We did not talk about the alphabet in order. You're right, we did
In
not.
all fairness, you did tell Rick that was the most important thing to do before the class started.
Oh.
Just learn the alphabet.
Oh, thank you, Jen. I appreciate you're getting me back on that. All right. So, akuo, kai blepo, hati adelphe, graphe. All right, so anybody want to take akuo? And again, you can flip back and forth. I hear, good. So it's akuo, and it's just got that O on it, the omega. I hear. Kai, and good. See that? That word will come in real, you'll be like, oh, and. Hati and kai, you'll get them all the time. Okay, blepo. I see, good. So akuo, kai blepo. I see, or sorry, I hear and I see hati, that, and then here we go. Adelphe, graphe. A sister, good, and she's our subject of the verb graphe. Good, graphs, right. So that's right. Epigraph. That's where we get this one. Okay. So graph. So I hear and I see that a sister writes. And again, that's going to feel like, what am I, in 3rd grade? Yeah. Actually, kind of more like kindergarten. You know what I mean? More like, I'm just trying to get the letters down. And that's okay. Okay? So those sentences, those first sentences are going to go something like that. They're pretty simple, kind of clunky. But then those LXX, if you know your Roman numerals, LXX, 70. L is 50, math teacher. L is 50, X is 10, X is 10. It's funny, they're Roman numerals. This is like the history of the world in one little thing. So what happens is when Egypt actually isn't under Roman control at that point. But anyway, there's an Egyptian ruler, ancestor to Cleopatra, who calls down 70 rabbis, Jewish teachers, to Alexandria, where the great library was. And he says, I need you to make me a translation of the Hebrew and Aramaic Old Testament into Greek. We call it the 70 because the story is that all 70 rabbis emerged from their separate study chambers with the exact same translation, which was God authorizing that this is a legitimate translation, the translation. So actually when you read the New Testament, they almost always quote the Septuagint, not the Hebrew, even where the Septuagint differs from the Hebrew and the Aramaic, which is really a bigger question than I want to get into right now. But it's fascinating. So these quotes come from the Old Testament. Some though, so for example, 2 and 3 come from a book named Tobit. You may not have read that. It's a wisdom book. It's deuterocanonical, second measure. That's another time. But otherwise, Genesis, Ezekiel, Daniel. And then NT, you'll see New Testament, Mark, John, Luke. So you're going to get right into the New Testament. But they are going to give you words you don't know, and they're over here on the facing page.
But are we supposed
Hidden.
to look it up in English to translate it, or translate it without the English, even on the verses?
What do you think you should do?
Well, now that I know the other words here, probably don't.
That's right.
They
So
would be
always,
challenging, even to-
that's right. So always try to wrestle with them first. The goal is not to get the right answer. The goal is to wrestle. You always win if you wrestle. You always get the blessing, even if you feel like your hip got dislocated in the process. Anyway, so that, and then the last bit, and we'll kind of start with this next time, is the English to Greek. So if you, in the next 3 weeks, can do those 20 sentences, 20 total. If you want to, you can do the English to Greek, but we'll probably start with that next time because I want to teach you the accenting rules. Okay?
Can we, send you our translations for feedback? Because that's where I struggle.
No. No, you have to bring them in here.
Oh, I know, but
Yeah, we'll go through them together because we have to argue it out. Okay? All right, well, thank you all. Thank you for coming. I'll see you in 3 weeks for more Greek. Geeks. See ya. That's it. I got nothing else.
Jacob wrestling. That's more taught me that.
Did she?
She did.
Beth Moore.
More than you guys think.
You guys?
Texas woman there.
She is. I went to school with her daughter at Moody and Wheaton. Yeah. Yeah, she was a year ahead of me.
Pronunciation.
Yes.
Why don't you pronounce the oi? That doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Just like there's different pronunciation systems.
There are.
Hand it off.
There are. Yeah. I mean,
Rolled R's as well.
Yes. Yes. There are people who roll the R. Honestly, probably the answer is like I don't because I wasn't taught that way. I have no problem at all with like Rhetor or Rhetor. That's fine. It's funny. It's where I just haven't taught Greek as much as I've taught Latin. So like in Latin, I give you primary sources where people are making fun of Romans for how their R's sound. I don't know of people doing that to the Greeks. Maybe it exists somewhere. I just don't know.
Yeah.
So like
Contemporary Greek.
yes.
Like when
Yes.
Contemporary Greek, when you roll their R.
My hunch is contemporary Greeks would be analogous to like how Italians treat Latin, which is to say they just pronounce Latin like they pronounce Italian.
Right. Yeah.
So I have a Greek uncle who like loves how Greek he is. He's a nuclear physicist, and he travels the world and does his nuclear stuff. And but he would be like, "That's not how you say it. That's not how you say it." And it's like, I know, Uncle. Oh my goodness, Ruth and what's his name? Oh my goodness. Oh, this is embarrassing. Jim, golly, I was like, you never call your uncle. Anyway, I was like, Blanis, Jim. There we go. Anyway.